So this is a concept album about hell, right? Does this mean we get to see Hades?
From devil's eyes, scorched by a heart drenched in black. No return, I will watch it burn.
Hello, I'm Notes, and we have a new album from the New Jersey big epic symphonic progressive rock metal band Symphony X. These guys really made a name for themselves back in the mid to late 90s when they entered that scene of that progressive metal that Queensryche had left in the 80s, and Dream Theater was really picking up in the early and mid 90s. These guys came along and entered in a lot more symphonic sound. They orchestrated a lot more and almost had like an orchestra sound to them, hence the name Symphony X. And many would place Symphony X as a trailblazer for metal prog, with those longer stretches and those symphonic sounds that we now have, kind of a synonym when we think about progressive metal. Unlike a lot of other progressive metal bands of the time, Symphony X's sound was on the one hand more complex, but also being a bit more simplistic. On the complex side of things, they spent a lot more time developing atmosphere and creating more of a complex type of sound in a holistic sense. It was more orchestrated. Again, that symphony atmosphere with it. But on the simplistic side of things, the main drumming of this is a very basic double kick snare drum pairing. And there really isn't too much of like a complex time signature. It's always that that's always leading the song through. So it was that blending of the two that really gave Symphony X their signature sound. Their main claim to fame outside of their sound was the longer and complex songs that they were orchestrating that went into the 20-minute mark, much like a lot of the 70s music did. And so we have a new album from them, the Underworld. And what do we think about this? Well, we're getting a lot of the more of the same that we've come to expect with this band. If you like what the band has sounded within the past 20 years, you're not going to be disappointed with it. They're hitting all the same kind of notes as they did before, and never really deviating too much from what they have mastered. All the playing on this album is still top notch. I'm always surprised at the technical skills that the lead guitarist, Michael Romeo, has. His ability to provide a very complex noodling of the guitars while paired off with creating a very chugging and very power chord riff and then switching between the two very, very quickly has always astounded me. I love how he's able to do this. And this is paired perfectly with the main keyboardist, Michael Pinella. His abilities to noodle right beside Romeo has always been more of like a dance than anything else. And again, he's able to create those really great sounds and those atmospheres with that kind of that symphony of the horns and the violins created on the synth. And I love his use of that like choir, that almost chanting that we have in a lot of their songs. And to round off this signature sound that we were expecting from Symphony X, we have the lead singer of Russell Allen. And unfortunately, this album also paints one of the drawbacks to Symphony X that I've always discovered. And it's been so much focus is being put on the keyboards and the vocals and the guitars that the drumming and the bass playing is always kind of left to the sidelines. And nothing against Jason Rulo, who is the drummer, or Michael LaPond, who is the bass player on the albums. They both bring a very good playing, but they just kind of sound like session players. They just come in, they do their shtick, and then they leave. And I've already mentioned that the drumming with that double kick bass drums and the snare has never really been my favorite type of drumming. Again, it's just more of a timekeeper at that point and less of an actual drummer. But this is the formula that Symphony X has placed themselves in, and they do it very well nonetheless. And why have I really been talking about their formula for so long as a generic side? That's basically what we're expecting on this album, as well as the rest of their discography. Even though I can't really say that they have a bad album or an album that I've been disappointed about, it's just they've never really broken out of this mold, and so the Underworld really paints the same picture. And sure, there are enough differences between the albums that they each have their kind of unifying identity among themselves, but still that main playing that we've come to expect is still what's really moving the song forward. So if you love that kind of music, you're gonna love this album. Unfortunately, shifting gears a little bit, where past albums, there have always been one or two or maybe even three songs that really stood out, ones that I could like pick out from a lineup that kind of left the impressions Here on Underworld, I can't really do that. All the songs kind of blend into one another, and there's no one song that kind of rises above the rest. On the one hand, it's good in that it creates a very unifying listen from start to finish, but on the other hand, once the album is done, I can't really pick out one song that I liked. We do have a little bit of variation, as we've come to expect, and we have two softer pieces on this album. The first, and what they've kind of led with this album in promoting the album, is Without You, the other being the Swan Song. Both of these songs kind of come in and do exactly what they're supposed to. They bring the energy down a bit after a little bit of a string of a harder piece, a harder section, kind of to let the listener have a little bit of a breather. You know that what's coming up next is going to be pretty intensive, so it's just like, let's bring the energy down so that we can bring it back up again. The other song that the band has decided to lead in promoting the album is Nevermore, which is kind of the opening track outside of the overture. The one thing I love about this band is they do a lot of overtures, and I love a good overture. It presents exactly what you want from the band, and for a new listener approaching the band, it's a really good introduction of what to expect from this band. And Nevermore is a really good opening. It's a staple Symphony X song with all of the characteristics that I've already laid out for you. I love the chugging, switched with that really quick noodling, back to the chugging, back to the noodling of both the guitars and the keyboard.
The skies cross the sea of light to the dungeons of the damned. Scorching winds blazing, thunder clouds raging here. I make my stand.
My favorite song on this album has to be the last song, which is Legend. Now, Symphony X is really great of closing an album, and this album is no exception, especially with Legend. The song is catchy. The melodies and the tones that are presented in this song allow me to kind of almost sing along to, and I've always felt like this is one of the weaknesses of Symphony X. They've never really been able to create a very catchy song, a long-lasting song. You're left more with the atmosphere of the song as opposed to the actual song itself. Within Legend, you actually kind of get a good sense of the song, and once it's over, you can kind of hum a few of the bars. I love how it opens up, again, with that dance of the keyboards and the guitars. Very, very well done. But really, that's about it for Underworld by Symphony X. Fans of the band will definitely not be disappointed with this, especially after so many albums this far into the game. There's not too much of a deviation from the standard here, and so they will definitely have a good listen. And new people to the band will have a really good listen. It's a great introduction, as well as any of their past albums. In the end, Underworld is a good listen, but does kind of leave you wanting a bit more. I would say stream this with earbuds. So what did you guys think of Underworld by Symphony X? Did you like it? Did you hate it? What did you think? Did it meet your expectations? Are you a little bit disappointed that they didn't try enough new things? Or did you feel like maybe they did? Maybe they got out of their shell a little bit? Let me know, again, comment below. And thank you so much for tuning in. And that's it. Notes out.